we're meeting 2 weeks from tomorrow, which maybe is, Charles was maybe kidding, but we are going to have a Tuesday meeting. Is that correct?
Yeah, Gary, thank you for beating me on the agenda. Yeah, it's our item number 2. We have the dates. Yes, and we do have a meeting Tuesday, December 21st. And that's because some of the task force members also are on Reston Planning and Zoning, and they typically meet the third Monday of each month. Thanks, Gary, for pointing that out. So yeah, let's get started. 7:05. Good evening, everyone, for joining us for this Reston Comprehensive Plan Task Force meeting. And the number is growing. This is meeting number 37, and we do have a busy agenda. The supervisor should be joining us a little later this evening. He had another meeting to join, but should be joining us at least briefly through the phone, but then eventually will join us virtually when he gets to his destination. So again, we do have you know, a couple more task force dates before the holidays, you know, so we do have one task force meeting next Monday, December 13th, and then the week of Christmas, it'll be on Tuesday, December 21st. And
I don't know about that I'll be able to attend that or not. I'll
okay,
try.
thank you, Jan. Thank you for letting me know. So
By the way, Jose, I know John Carter is trying to get on this. I don't see him on.
I haven't got a message from Commissioner Carter, so and I did send him the links this afternoon.
Yeah, I do know he's trying to get on. So
okay. Okay, thanks, Gary. I'll get Lisa to see if we can help him get in the meeting from that. Okay. And then so today on today's agenda, Charles Colby finished the last meeting. Well, we finished our last meeting, still continuing the public facilities discussion, so we're going to pick up on that. And then I think if Michelle is on, we do have community health coming back for some discussion, and then hopefully we can, as a task force, kind of bring some other topics for next Monday's meeting, and then some questions and comments, and just kind of like the general flow from all our meetings. You know, Charles is going to present his document, get a couple task force members to provide some comments. We'll try to circle back with Commissioner Carter if he has any thoughts, and maybe see if there's any attendees that had any comments or questions, and we'll try to make sure that they're able to raise their virtual hand so we can unmute them, and you know, we'll see if there's you know, at least some direction of initial task force approval, at least for public facilities. So any questions with the agenda? And please please unmute it, because I can't see your physical hand or virtual hand.
Jose.
Yes, Tammy?
This is Tammy. Could we have either during Charles's discussion or at the end of the meeting, an agreement on formatting, font size, indent or not, and some things like that? Most of the chapters are in one. Anyway, let's have that discussion. So
yeah, let's see if we can get through most of the agenda. I think it's something that we can easily work through. Yeah, thanks, Tammy. Any other comments from task force members? Okay, Charles. So let me pass the sharing privileges to you.
Sorry, Jose.
Oh, yeah, go ahead, Lynn.
I wasn't able to unmute quickly enough, but I do want to congratulate Charles on pulling together a great chapter here and taking everyone's comments into consideration. So great job.
Thank you, Lynn, and thank you, Charles. So Charles, let's get you screen sharing privileges.
And I also need to apologize if any of you are being driven nuts by a squeaking noise. That's me, or my dog. I have a Jack Russell Terrier and they just like to kill toys. And she seems to have picked now as the time.
Well, thank you, Charles, and please take it away. You should be able to share your content.
Got it. Okay. Let's see. I'll try Cation, see how that works. Let's go try sharing Word. Okay, good. Here it is. Can you all see it?
Can you
Yes, we
make it
can.
bigger?
Yep.
Great,
Here, I'll even enlarge it.
wonderful. Thank you.
Here's what I propose to do is go through all of this, show you the incremental changes based on comments in the last meeting or what people have submitted since. I had everything possible except for a recommendation by Tammy on storm sewers, I believe, which I neglected. I missed that. So I'm going to try to add that as well. But what I want to do is go through the items, see if there's just general, like there's no objections, and if there aren't, I'll simply accept them or move on. If there are comments, I'll make a note of it, but I am hoping just to kind of finalize these. And there may be some controversial things, and if there are, I like to just take a vote and move on. So anyway, first thing, someone had commented, I added a sentence about public facilities should take advantage of co-location as a way to optimize resources. So that's in addition based on the last week's meeting.
Can you tell me who made that recommended insertion?
No, I'd have to look at the actual recording or video. So when I was writing the comments down, I did not note exactly who was saying it. I'm sorry, I'd have to go back and just review the meeting. But to me,
Well, what is co-location in this definition?
co-location's the idea, like, for example, you might have like a recreation facility at a school. But what I did is I played it both ways. I said as a way to, one, optimize resources, and two, more effective delivery of public services. And what I meant by the thing we've been talking about, like as in the example of having recreation on school properties where we have fields. I think that was, I'm not advocating that, but I think it's an example of something we discussed. I added this additional one, more effective delivery of public services. It's advantageous to have a shelters located near social services offices.
Yeah, you might want to just put a like a parentheses after co-location and give examples of what that.
Yep.
That came from me, John Carter, the co-location, I believe.
Hi, John Carter.
That's North Reston Town Center is the poster child for co-location.
Yeah, just for definitional purposes and
Yeah.
clarity, I think it would be good to just put a parentheses and just put example or i.e. whatever that means. Thank you.
Yeah,
This
I don't
is-
think anyone would object to that.
This is Moira. I do want you to be careful giving examples because I believe when we had meetings prior, maybe the prior comp plan, there was always this example of schools sharing a library with the public library. And as you know, you can't get into schools without fingerprints and ID. And so I just don't think it's a safe idea to co-locate school facilities with public facilities for the safety reasons.
Yep.
So give a different example if you would, please.
Do you have one?
No, not off the
How
top of my
about
head,
a
but you said
play
shelter, like you could do a shelter with the, certain services. I think that's a good example. You certainly could
field
do
with a school
fields.
and shelter with social
No, not school.
No, yeah, I don't
The
know if you want
shelter and health and human services is a
Yeah.
good pairing, but
Okay.
not a
Yeah.
school.
I would not do anything with the schools. I think you're going to run into safety issues, please.
Yeah.
Good. All righty. This time I'm logging whose comments they are. At the suggestion of John Carter last time, I guess I remembered him, but he had said to put the responsible party. So what I did is in this table, I put like Fairfax County Public Schools for schools, Fairfax County Fire and Rescue Department for fire and rescue, and I looked up the names on websites. Fairfax County Police Department for police, Fairfax County Public Library, that's how it's on their website for the Reston Regional Library. Health and Human Services for the North County building. I put Cornerstones in Fairfax County for the Embry-Rucker shelter, if I understand that correctly. Go ahead, Tammy.
I'm sorry, I don't think that's true. I think it's strictly Fairfax County. And you might check that with staff. I'm sure someone on staff knows that tonight, but I don't believe Cornerstones is involved there.
They don't operate the shelter?
I think the county operates the shelter.
Right. So the shelter and the expansion of the shelter is a county activity.
So I should take Cornerstones out of that?
I believe so. I would get that answered, but I believe that is correct.
Who would know the answer?
Staff.
Okay.
Any staffer should know that. Cornerstones runs a lot of things for the county. I don't believe Embry-Rucker is one of them. They run
Sam Hudson,
addiction
one of the,
services.
Tammy?
Staff
Yeah.
of Cornerstones.
Tammy
Okay.
and Charles, I think Sam Hudson with Health and Human Services is on.
Oh, that
Yeah.
would be fabulous.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I know that actually lots of our partners typically run our shelters, but I can confirm that with the Office to End and Prevent Homelessness, and I will relay it back to y'all through Jose.
Oh, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, so we'll wait for that. Let's make sure I've been saving my comments. Yell at me if I don't hit the little blue arrow there. Fairfax County and NGOs, this is something we'll have to talk about later. It's a little more controversial, so I'm going to move on. We might end up striking this or reworking this one. RCC in Fairfax County for the Reston Community Center. And let's see, I put communities, yes, Tammy?
I would suggest put small tax RCC parentheses small tax district number 5. That's the regulator, the funding source for that.
What is it now?
Small tax district number 5.
Right. I thought it was in here already.
It may be in there.
It's in there in another location.
It's
In
in
there,
there.
but not here.
Then I don't think you need it. The here. If it's in,
Yeah, I'm
if
just
it's
filling in
here.
the table here.
Yeah.
And here I put community center. I'm not sure why I put that. I guess I meant the community center, and I was abbreviating from Kathy Hudgens Community Center at Southgate.
Yeah, no, that's county totally. Yeah.
It's a totally county, okay.
Yes.
But Reston Community Center is not. It's small tax district 5, and the program fees.
For Hunter Mill FCPA Recreation Center, all the recreation centers, I put Fairfax County Park Authority. I was asked just to delineate, William Penniman asked that I just delineate the other parks for the record. So I just put them so we have a complete inventory, and again, put Park Authority.
Charles,
I mean,
on that, box number 21, Stratton Woods and is not within our study area. It's outside the Reston border.
Which are you saying, Tammy? I'm sorry?
Stratton Woods Park.
Actually, I think it is. I think it is within Reston.
Now, I
mean,
looked
we're
at-
dealing with other things right next to it or part of it. We have
I
it.
have Polo Fields is, but we have the maps.
Stratton Woods is
We're working-
inside of Fox Mill, and we're
Fox-
dealing with Fox Mill elsewhere.
Stratton Woods development is different from the park.
No, but the park is inside Reston.
I have the map, and I checked it today. And maybe I'm wrong, but the map is with our study area. It is outside our study area.
It's part of
Similar to
Reston.
Lake Fairfax Park.
It's part of Reston, and
Portion
it serves people.
Fairfax
in
Park
Reston.
is outside.
So it
Lake
is
Fairfax-
part of the study area.
Well, all right.
John, is this part of the study area or not? John Carter?
I don't know. I don't have the map in front of me.
We can confirm with Park Authority staff if that's helpful. Happy to do that.
For sure, Lake Fairfax is not, because the Hunt Club was assigned to us. It's right outside the Reston border. And for sure, Lake Fairfax is not in our study area.
Yeah, that's true.
That's right.
No question about that.
Well, I think the county views that Lake Fairfax Park as part of the Reston area, as part of small district.
It is a regional park. It is not in the Reston Comp Plan study area. I
Right.
promised you. I don't know what the
No,
park
it's
authority
definitely not.
thinks,
It's
but it
definitely
is
Where,
not
where is that
study area.
defined, Tammy? I mean,
Well, Hosea, look it up anyway.
Look at the map.
Yeah, I'm
Oh, I
happy to
know,
follow
I know
up on
we've
that.
discussed this, that Lake Fairfax is not within the study area, but it's served by people in the study area. So we've had discussion whether to include it or not include it. I immediately recognize Lake Fairfax as as that outlier. And I don't know, my gut told me just to leave it in, that it wouldn't really make a difference. I don't care leaving it in or taking it out.
Actually, on the web, it says that Stratton Woods is adjacent to Reston, not in Reston.
I'd still check it with the Park Authority because I think they think it's part of Reston. And it
Right.
certainly serves people in Reston, as does Lake Fairfax Park, which can be entered from half a dozen different locations.
Okay,
Reston.
But that doesn't
Anyway,
mean it's supposed to be.
the
Bill,
Missouri Compromise here, if this is okay, I'm gonna make a note in a revision that Lake Fairfax is not in the boundaries of the study area, but serves the, serves people in the vicinity, something like that. Would that be okay?
that's
No, it's not. You shouldn't put things on the chart that aren't within the master plan boundaries. I don't know why that's so complicated.
So I should take that out, John?
Yes, definitely. It's not within the comp plan boundaries, and I don't know about Stratton Woods.
Stratton Woods
Yeah.
Park, John. It's not Stratton Woods.
I don't know that.
Yeah.
one.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm
But
gonna.
it's easy to
take it out.
check. Just look on the map. It's either in or it's out.
All right. And good, so we'll verify Stratton Woods. All right.
We have a chat, and the staff member says Cornerstones does operate the Embry Rucker shelter. So
Well,
you're
yeah, I mean, that's
Good,
otherwise,
good
I
going.
wonder who's been taking my money when I write checks,
There you go. Good.
so we're done with that.
So I should keep Cornerstones in 16? Or
Yes, it says, good evening, everyone. Cornerstones operates Embry Rucker. It is a county facility. Cornerstones does not own it.
And that's what John Carter, you had suggested this column, if it's operated but not owned, you think I should include the operator?
Yes,
Okay. Okay, per discussion, keep cornerstones. To me, it makes sense to keep it because one thing the plan does is it might address who do you talk to? Like I would think you would want to consult them when all these big plans are being implemented.
absolutely. That's the point of this.
And then I put, tell me if I'm wrong on this, but I took a guess. I put Fairfax County for the Fairfax County Performing Arts Center.
Nobody now.
You ought to have the private sector in there too. Both Fairfax County and private.
Eh,
You might just say large performing arts center, and then in the third column, Fairfax County private sector to be determined, whatever.
Yeah.
It's still, it's on, we don't know if it'll be a public-private partnership or just how it's going to play out.
yeah,
Well, its location is set. It's the TBD.
Right.
Who's
Right.
going to pay for it?
Right,
That's in the next column over the TBD.
right.
Yeah, that's fine.
all right. Another change I made, I think Tammy had suggested, I agreed, as I moved this, I just deleted this list because it's covered in the table up above. And I then added this sentence here. John Carter had requested at the meeting, in planning for the future, FCPS should take into consideration housing data from the land use chapter of the comprehensive plan when applying the standard formulas for
Yes,
determining school requirements in Reston. And I tried to word this in a subtle way. I said, when applying their formulas, because there is this weird issue that a lot of these schools are outside of Reston, like
good point.
overlap.
Mhm.
So I tried to account for that. That's why I said they should take into consideration.
Good move, Charles.
Yeah, that's a
Oh,
good
yeah.
job. That's very good.
Yeah, you got to watch me.
Yeah, you're a great dancer.
Okay, one here. Someone had recommended Tammy to change should to will. My own viewpoint is I really don't, I don't understand what difference it does. I'm not saying it may make a difference, but I don't understand the nuances. So does anyone have any objections or thoughts on this?
I think the will is saying that they will. Should kind of means, well, they should, but maybe they won't. Whereas will means they will do this. So
That's correct.
it's
That's correct. Yeah.
significantly different.
I think will is fine, but I think you need a little, they're going to, what, as I understand it, and John, Tammy, others can tell me if I'm wrong, is there's a formula that the developers of residential properties provide money in certain quantities based on projected student contributions, projected number of kids are going to go to school. So it's not all developments, but it's residential, and it's a formula for money. So you might just say, we'll provide money or funds or something for additional schools. They won't actually build them.
Yeah, that's good. We'll provide funds.
Yeah, and that's fine.
Okay, so we'll leave that. Fire
Add funds in there, Charles.
I thought you were going to
Will
make that
provide
change.
funds. You know,
what?
put a
Will
word.
provide funds.
Will
Provide funds.
will provide funds.
Right there.
Good, that's a good one.
There you go.
One suggestion on this, it might be, depending on the location, that you can provide other contributions that reach that equivalent. For example, in the Herndon transit station area, there was an application within the last 5 years that dedicated a school site.
No.
They didn't provide funds, but they provided a site, and you might be able to come up with equivalent alternatives here, or just at least not preclude them, as opposed to saying you will only provide funds.
That makes sense.
Yeah, that's,
e.g. site.
right. Good.
Or property.
Pardon?
I said, or property for school site.
Well, I think site is the,
It's an example.
yeah,
Okay,
I think
I
that's
wanted
fine.
thanks.
the example to make it clear that we're talking about significant alternatives. And I think around here, a site's very significant.
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
As of, yeah. Fire and rescue, anything else on this? Fire and rescue is pretty straightforward. I think Tammy or someone had suggested this grammar change. I had noticed that too, by the way. Was happy to fix that. And then, let's see now. I took this out. I think Tammy had noted, and I verified on the map that this is done. So we didn't need the sentence here. It's from the last plan. Library.
Charles, back
Yes.
to fire, please.
Mhm.
If you go back up, yeah, keep going back up. I had sent you revisions that put your 5 existing fire stations in bullets, because reading your first paragraph is excellent, but I stopped after stations, and then I did bullets. Station 25 is located, and that, because reading that long sentence of all those is mind blowing and very confusing. So I did bullets there. And then when you're discussing potential number 6 and all the features it would have and its square footage, I put that in bullets, because just reading through text, and a lot of it without a break, is very difficult.
Okay.
So
This is formatting
information
and not
exactly. I don't think there
substantive.
was any wording changes. It was just bulleted.
Got it.
You've got
Note that it's
that to you. There was no substantive change. It's just a different way to look at it.
and that's just for the comfort of the group, because we want to try to reach a consensus that
Yes.
I'm just going to clean it up.
Okay. And one other thing that was not in this that you may or may not choose to put in addition, Fairfax County Fire Department has a signal changing capacity that is super important. And as the fire trucks are going to the accident, they have the ability to change the signals to green so they can get there. And this is throughout the county. Very, very critical infrastructure. It is a county, public facility, part of the fire department. I don't know whether the police have the same ability. That I don't know. I know for sure the fire does. So I would like a sentence about that signaling, and I put it in the iteration I sent you. It's very short. It's just, this is the deal.
There's a name for that, which I
Tammy,
forgot.
this is Shane. That's 100% wrong. We
It
don't
is?
have preemption in Fairfax. We have it in the city. We have it in the town. We don't have it in Fairfax County.
Yes, we
Really?
do.
No, we
do
don't.
preemption devices.
We have
are
it
very tough.
on certain signals, but we don't have it in Reston.
Well, I see the little boxes, and
We
when
don't
the
have it.
fire stuff comes out of Wheelie,
Trust me. When I hit a red light, it doesn't change.
Wow.
So, you know, that's something that's
Jane,
going
are
to
you
have
with
to
the fire department?
have to be figured out, you know, between, you know, more folks than just us.
Okay, are you with the fire department?
I'm a volunteer in Fairfax County. Yes, Fair Oaks.
John Carter, we're gonna have to get that figured out because there are proffers in
Yes,
our,
we're taking money for it. We're taking a
Yes.
lot of money for them.
and the little boxes exist and you can see them. So that's a wrinkle we'll have.
Okay. When you mention it that way, okay.
Here's the other issue. When you preempt, you screw up all the traffic signals all the way down the line. And so that's why VDOT hadn't allowed it. Is because when I preempt one signal, it goes all down the line.
It's a very common proffer, I'll tell you that.
Yes, that's why I mentioned
It is,
I've
but
seen the boxes.
we
don't have any.
We can preempt in Fairfax City. I can preempt in the town of Herndon. I can't preempt in Fairfax County. I can't preempt anywhere in VDOT right away.
Well, there's lots
That's
of
why
money.
it's a common proffer, because they know it'll never come to fruition.
Yeah.
Oh, the county gets the money. The county definitely gets the money.
That's interesting.
What they're doing with it, that might be something else,
Yeah.
but they definitely get the
Can-
money.
Is
Can
there a legal issue that comes though? If the county does that and they take the money, but it doesn't really go to anything, it's just like a.
Yeah, that's a critical issue. Where are those proffers? And what is going to happen to them?
It's meant to be if VDOT ever decides to do it. The problem is they tried to do it in Tyson's and it jacked up the signal so much that they couldn't get anything done. Every time Station 29 came out, it jacked up the signals from, basically from Pemmon all the way to the toll road. And so that's been the problem is on a corridor, it just doesn't work. And, like I said, Fairfax City does it. It works there, but the reality is everybody who's sitting on the side streets waits.
Well, the county in the past has had that. I know that for sure. So I don't know where we stop along the line. And then we have all these proffers that are what are they? Meaningless, or do they have to be replaced? I
It's
mean,
an issue we're not gonna resolve tonight, so let's go on and we will have to get Walter involved and figure out what's going on.
We don't have to have it in here since it's not really a facility, so to speak. It's dollars that we're getting, so.
Okay, thanks. Sorry.
Is that okay, Tammy, not include it?
Yes, absolutely. Do not include it.
Yeah, good.
Okay, I'm gonna delete that one. Yeah, I don't. It's interesting.
That's very interesting.
Yeah, that's real. Thanks, Shane. We may have unburied a body, boy.
Yeah, you may
Oh
have.
my.
Oh, mercy.
Law enforcement, anything else on fire and rescue? Law enforcement, straightforward. Library, here's something I added. At some point, someone had mentioned add the idea of mixed use. So I had added that. And then I think there were concerns about the library. I forget whether there was a comment. Let me see now. Comment about, kind of getting caught short. Or maybe we knocked it was my interpretation. You might build a new library. So you knock the old one down and embark on a 5-year project to build the new one or something like that. So I just added language. Relocation to the new facility must be coordinated to ensure minimum disruption of library services, meaning there should not be a long period between removal of the existing facility and opening of the new one, and or an interim facility should be provided for Reston during the time period. Although I think Dennis Dennis Hayes had indicated it's a regional library, so it may not be something you deal with the trailers, something like that. But this is language I put just to deal with that issue based on comments from the last meeting. Any thoughts on this?
Yeah,
Yeah, Charles.
I know Dennis, you do, but I
do.
do as well in terms of what we have in land use. We have differing language in the land use chapter. So Dennis, I'll let you go ahead.
I would eliminate the word long.
Well, if you don't mind, Charles, let me jump in and thank you for this. I would like to see that entire sentence, the one, the relocation, removed for some very specific and profound reasons. As I hope most of you know, the library is a vital component of daily life here in Reston. Pre-COVID, there were over 1,000 people a day that came to the library. I mean, children, parents, teens, seniors, homeless, English language learners, entrepreneurs, everybody depends on the library. And to take that away is a major reduction in the services that we provide to our community. We don't have to guess or speculate. We know what happens when you shut down a library and then put it into a temporary facility. I mean, this happened at Tyson's Pimmet, it happened at Pohick. I mean, it happens fairly frequently, and the same things happen every time. You move into a temporary facility, you're lucky to have 10% of the volumes of material available. At Tyson's Pimmet, they had 4 computers for internet. That was it. You look at an average of 25 to 50,000 books and periodicals that get destroyed, never make it to the new facility along the way. And these are disproportionately books on history, science, art, music, biographies that all get just trashed and not carried along forward. The staff that's at that library gets reassigned. So the people that that you see every day and all the time can be sent all the way across the county, and there's no guarantee that they will ever come back at the beginning when things are new again. I'm a friend of the Reston Library. The friends are cut out. There's no book sales. There will be no ability to take donations of books along the way. And the temporary that we're talking about can stretch upward 2 and more years, where you basically have no efficient library services that are provided. Now, there is a solution to this, and that is you build a new library before you tear down, bulldoze the old one. And there's certainly a precedent for that right here. Those of you will remember Kathy Hudgens back years ago when they were going to build the new North Administrative Building. The plan was to tear down the old one and then build a new one, putting Kathy and the police into temporary facilities. She quite properly said this would result in an unacceptable loss of service to the community. Build the new one first, and then we'll move into it. And that's exactly what happened, and it turned out to be the correct case. I will also note that if you're talking, people want to bulldoze the library and the Emory Rucker shelter because it's on blocks 7 and 8, which people feel is an attractive area because it's right next door to the town center there. And so there it is. If you do that at a time when there is no funding for building the new library yet, it's going to be $39.5 million that the county has to find through bonds or other financial instruments to build a new library. We do not have that money yet. We have $10 million from an old bond that expires next year if we don't use it. So you put all of these things together, and I'm dumbfounded that we would want to destroy one of the cornerstones of our community for an indefinite future, which could extend years into the future.
Dennis, I was just taking a shot at responding to the comment. So we could just go ahead and work this. I could start out by taking out long. I could even change it.
Charles, I appreciate your looking to wordsmith it. If it's more than a day, it destroys the continuity that we have, and it destroys the trust that we have with 1,000+ people a day who use the library.
But could I make a suggestion?
You could,
If I could make a
Sure.
suggestion, and that is, Dennis,
Well-
I totally agree with Dennis. And language, I would suggest language like the new library shall be constructed and in operation before operation of the existing library is reduced or terminated.
Great,
Thank you, Bill. I fully agree with that.
Yeah.
yay, me too.
And I agree, all of his reasons make complete sense. I'm more agnostic about the standalone versus part of a larger building, because if you have it part of a larger building, it leaves more land for play areas, for other things. But as I say, I'm more agnostic on that. But I do totally agree that the new library should be built and in operation before the existing building is
Charles, you might want to just put the relocation prior to retiring the existing facility, comma, thereby ensuring no disruption in library services.
and just to further elaborate on Bill and Dennis and obviously Lynn is saying, there's language in land use that tried to already deal with this.
Yes.
So, I think we're all in the same mindset here to make sure
Is
this regional
discussed in the
library.
land use section.
Yes.
I think it's kind of sometimes good to just briefly restate it in this section, because I think this is
Right.
the one that the library planners would look at.
Right.
But so there we go. We can word
Very good.
but I basically
Happy, Dennis?
get rid of this other stuff.
Yeah, I would, again, my proposal would be delete that entire sentence. Just leave it blank. Done.
Here's what I have now. The relocation of new facility shall be constructed and in operation prior to retiring the existing facility, thereby ensuring no disruption of library services. This is
Okay, I take it back.
land
I
use
take it
section.
back. You type faster than I can read, so I do agree with that. I'm happy with that language. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank
No,
you,
you're not.
Bill, and thank you,
If
Charles.
you're okay with that, I
Let
wanted
me-
to
let me,
address this.
If I could, there's a second sentence, and you mentioned it, Charles, briefly. It's a regional library, not an urban library. I don't know the thing about mixed use. Personally, I would love to see a coffee shop built into a library, like Barnes and Noble has. I mean, I don't have a problem with that. I would have a problem with other extraneous things coming in there. But if by mixed use you mean something like that, then I can certainly live with that.
But I think, Dennis, it's dangerous to read that, and have it go beyond what you're just talking about, a Starbucks or something in there.
That would be great.
Yeah, Barnes and Noble is actually a bookstore, and the libraries traditionally never have had coffee shops. Bookstores have.
Well, but
Some of the
my
new
point
ones
is,
are
if we
Outpatient.
don't clarify that here, as Dennis is talking about, we could have misinterpretations in the future. So I would have the same issue with the mixed use point that I think maybe Jan is also saying.
Maybe change the
Take
should, the
out mixed
could,
use.
and done. Should, the could.
Thank you so much, Dennis, for bringing that up. I go every week, so I mean, it's
Yeah.
really
Yeah.
important.
Charles,
Like a Starbucks. Now,
Charles,
go on. Yes.
you have the relocation to the new facility shall be. You must not ever use shall. It'll not happen. It must be will or must.
Good, yes.
Thank you. Now I will not have an aneurysm.
This sentence, I think Dennis had suggested, just taking it all together. And I will indicate, I had added this over the last plan. I'll tell you what my worry was, and if you all want to take this last one out, it's fine. I have a worry. I'm less optimistic about like libraries being in their current form in the future. So I'm just wanted to allow sort of a vision or a flexibility or a concept that libraries may evolve in their purpose in the future. As we go to a digital society, that they may have a different purpose. That's why I added this language in this last sentence. So we could modify it, take it out, or just leave it be. I think it's fairly innocuous, but I don't mind taking it out if we think it is distracting. Following best practices, I put in design, it could be community design, for example. The new library facility should also serve as a facility, as location. This is what I originally had. A location for placemaking, which means designing spaces to create community interaction in indoor and outdoor settings. So that could be dangerous, or it could be something that sets a tone for relevance 10 or 20 years from now.
Charles, I'll have to send you my hand-drawn drawing of the library of the future. A lot of what you're talking about is already happening. Reston Library has working on makerspace. We have ways that you can take your VHS tapes and turn them into this. A lot of that is already ongoing. There's a lot of new ideas on libraries that those of us that love libraries, and I love libraries, I love books.
Sure.
That's going to be the core, but there's a lot more that can be done. It's simply a matter of imagination and then funding. And if we can have both applied here, what I would like to see is the Reston Regional Library be the flagship library for Fairfax County and a nationally recognized example of what a library can and should be in the future. So I'm with you on that.
Yeah, they tried this a while ago. The regional library tried to reduce the number of books available, and we actually had a poll, and everybody, the majority have said, keep the books, don't go totally digital. It was a big fight. And the books people won at this round. But
that's what got me involved in civic action, was exactly that issue.
So Dennis, is that your hand drawn, or is that the library's hand drawn?
Oh, it's mine. You'll like it.
I think it's important for us to go to the. I think it's important.
To the side. We're going to put that to the side because it's a long way off.
Fine tune based on future. Anyone tell me if you're sort of maybe like future vision of a library. Purpose is to communicate. The library will set an example for the future. This is not graceful. You get the idea. In other words, what I'm saying is, again, I'm thinking like anyone who wants ideas on how the library will look will refer to this section of the plan. So this might be a good place to get our vision in here. So that's what I was going to suggest, is try to get it right and just have like one sentence, no more.
Okay. Charles, I'd be happy to send you some thoughts and you can play with them from there.
Okay. Does anyone have an
minor
objection
point,
to that?
Charles? It's the land use chapter, not section, in caps.
Sorry.
Minor point at best.
Oh, no, you have to get it right.
Just one caution. There was an episode a few years ago, maybe the same one that was alluded to already, where some people on the Board of Supervisors seem to be really happy to gut libraries. And so be very careful with getting too innovative in your language, because it might be quoted to a very different end from what you have in mind.
Okay.
Fair enough.
I think the libraries should decide themselves. I mean, they're an entity. They should make the decisions of how they want to progress, not have it in our plan at all. Just have the library exist.
Well, they're a service that is provided to the citizens of Fairfax, and we're the citizens of Fairfax.
Yeah, that has to be it's a public facility that's crucial for Reston in my mind. So it has to be in here pretty clearly, or it won't come out the way You would hope that it would for Reston and the surrounding community since it's a regional library.
Right.
This will be one sentence and we'll very carefully word it and we'll all have a chance at final edits. The only thing I disagree with all of you is I think a Starbucks would be cool.
Let's keep the library first.
Why in the library? Maybe I'll add that. All right, Health and Human Services. Are we okay on library now to move on?
Charles, in your blue, right before the problems, last sentence, it's capital L for land, capital U for use. You got the capital
Oh,
C.
yeah,
check.
sorry.
Yeah. No, it's just, you don't want to have to go back and worry about that later. Thank you.
Good.
And while we're going back and making edits, you had an extra open bracket right there
Yeah.
between the.
That was a placeholder in case we didn't like, so I'm gonna, thank you.
You're welcome.
Good. Okay, I'm saving. Health and Human Services. We have a little summary chapter here describing the offices, facilities. I think we're okay with it last time. Okay, here's, should have a discussion. And I'm going to point out this paragraph here I added. And we need to think about this and make sure we're comfortable. My vision or thought was, in looking at facilities like shelters and so on, is that you may have a gap between people who have like an emergency situation or are chronically homeless for various reasons, like who have very special needs. And then it's from affordable housing point of view, it steps up then to people who are probably like middle class, who middle class people, I think, generally can't afford to live in Reston, where townhouses sell for $900,000 in some places. So that it's important to make for people, middle class people, to make things affordable, and that's well taken care of in the housing section. But I'm concerned about working people, like real workers, like a dishwasher in a restaurant, for example. And I'm concerned that we may have a population in the Reston area that either has very long commutes or in many cases camps or lives in cars and may not be suitable for a shelter. So that's why it's suggested here the idea of some kind of affordable housing where that they might even pay for, but it's more close to like a hotel, a more temporary or transactional thing. So this has been here, and I think Dennis had a lot of concerns about this, and I had noted his comments here, and I think he had a very good point, which is I'm suggesting putting this in the Reston Town Center North area, simply because I was under the impression there was land there. And he's indicating that we're really going to have a crowded section there, and it really would not fit. So I could go different directions. I could just take this whole paragraph out.
Yeah, Charles, sorry, I would like to just comment on this section and the content that we are now working on in the land use chapter. We have identified this area, the county-owned property, as being dedicated to civic uses. So if there's an opportunity for Inova to provide this type of housing opportunity, that would be wonderful. But I think that it is important that the land that the county is negotiating right now is, and I think that's blocks 1, 3, 5, 7, and 8, that they are absolutely dedicated to civic uses. This community has been begging for this. We have been promised it, and it's time to deliver.
Yeah, if I could just add,
Some notes
add
here.
on to Lynn there. You know, several months back, a number of us did a walkthrough, or actually a couple times we did a walkthrough of this area. It's not that big, and it gets cut up in different ways because of the road system and parks and other things. And so, Charles, look, I think most people on this call would agree that what you're concerned about is a concern that we share. It's just that there isn't any room in the civic part of town center. We have more urgent needs than we are going to be able to accommodate. And so, as Lynn said, I think the services that they provide will be for all, not just all of Reston, but mostly for the north of the county. And that has to be our focus. If we try to put too much in there, the whole thing is going to sink, and it will never happen. So, you know, as Lynn said, we address this in the land use area, and I think that's an appropriate area to kind of take this on and try to figure out what we can do.
Charles, you're doing an excellent job on this. I just wonder, I hate to be so cryptic, this is really not a public facility in the same, this is housing, pure and simple. It's not really a public facility. I just wonder if there's going to be any discussion about something like that. It shouldn't go in the housing chapter, but I think it's not really a public facility. It is housing. It's not like the Embry Rucker Center or facilities like that. It is housing pure and simple. And we do have a lot of locations existing in Reston for this. So I would request consideration just deleting the idea, putting it in this chapter. So that's my
Cut it. I just wanted to mention the reason I put it in public facility is that I don't think it will happen without some kind of government help. In other words, it's
oh, I think you're right. I think
it's
you're
not,
right.
it's a business that's not viable. Doesn't have to be specifically what we're talking about, unless, as you said, someone like Inova wants to make it happen, which may indeed have a need for this population as a workforce. And I'm just concerned. I'm worried that our existing housing solutions deal with more stable people, even if they're not that wealthy. It's someone who goes out and gets a lease. See, they sign a lease for a rental agreement, and I'm talking about someone below that. But it also could be something that's not mandated. We could just set the vision for it so that it could be considered if it turns out there's a need. Particularly worried is you might have to actually relocate some people when you start building this stuff in Reston Town Center North.
But we already have a sentence or two for the government sponsored or government funded or joint public-private funded projects in the housing chapter. It just seems to me that it's not really a public facility in the same sense. It might be funded by the public, but it's not the same as a school or the library or even the Embry Rucker Center. It's different than that. It is pure and simple housing.
Hey, Charles, this is Jose. Chris Daniel has a virtual hand up, so I wanted to make sure we also got to him too.
Okay.
Hey, Charles, this is Chris. Sorry, I'm on my phone for this meeting, so I can't turn my camera on. I think I have a larger concern with this overall section because I think you've been doing some amazing work on it, but I keep feeling like the whole section is getting stuck in scope creep, as a term we use in the feds. And
yes.
I'm really worried about when we're going to vote and send this on to get the staff review on it, because I feel like we haven't been moving things out. And while there's been a lot of great discussion and feedback in each of these sections, I feel like we've kind of got to pull a ripcord soon on this to meet some of our timeframes. And I was hoping we were going to have this and kind of go, oh, can we give it a yay, nay to get it out the door to get the staff to give you a look? And I on the same boat with there, I kind of agree with this, that this one seems to be, as was said with John Carter, it seems like it's the affordable housing, not really needed here, while it might be a needed service.
Yeah.
And Charles, I'll just add that the good news is here that, you know, Emory Rutgers is going from 10,000 to 25,000, which is a very positive thing. And we're going to get some hopeful help from Inova.
Okay. I'm hearing, the only voices I'm hearing are to strike this. And I just want to say one more time before we strike it. If you go to like hypothermia, and you might notice like maybe a quarter of the people who leave a hypothermia shelter actually in the morning go to jobs. Okay, they're living in their cars or they're camping, but they can't camp when it's 20 degrees out. So what I want to ask is this: do we have them provided for? Do we have find an option, or are they going to have to continue camping? That's all I wanted to raise that point.
Charles, this is Michelle. You know, I think that if my understanding of the new Embry Rucker facility is correct, it should include some transitional and hopefully supportive housing on top of the shelter. So hopefully that can provide for some of what you're looking for there. You know, there's one that the county just did, I think, or fairly recently, I guess not just, but it was the Bailey shelter that combined housing and supportive services under one roof. And so hopefully with the new Embry Rucker shelter, we'll be able to hit some of those needs. So maybe that's part of it. And then taking some of your ideas and incorporating them in the affordable housing chapter as well.
Okay. I'd be happy to take this out because we need to move on. But I would like to make sure that that population, and I'm not talking about people who have special needs. I'm talking about people who simply want to make money and be located nearby.
Right, right.
And who will, out of a matter of convenience, camp or live in their car.
Well, hold on to your language. Maybe some of it could go into the affordable housing chapter. So.
Okay, so here's what we're going to do. We'll consider this. Let's see, hold on. Okay, this is the critical thing. Okay. We'll consider this for affordable housing. Keep language. We'll discuss. And again, whenever you lose me is if we mention that people with special needs and so on and so on, that's not what I'm talking about.
Yes, right. Yeah.
Yep. When I saw people leaving hypothermia, they really had it together. They just couldn't afford to live around here. Okay, so this is going to come out. So I'm making note of that. We'll strike. Everyone good with that?
And in terms of hypothermia, Charles, I mean, there are organizations such as Facets that will go around and they will pick up folks that are in need of shelter from around the county, and they will deliver them to specific locations. And Reston is one of those locations. So, you know, I think it's not just Reston Central. It's that Reston is serving the greater Fairfax County population as well.
Right. So I'm not not talking about a shelter population. I'm talking about a workforce population.
Right. Yes.
Yep.
Thank you.
And it is not a common model in the United States. I've researched it as an example. Closest city I could see that's like Reston is Singapore. And Singapore relies heavily on just like day workers, and they live in these types of facilities. And if you were in a rural area, it would probably be the Econo Lodge, but we don't have those in Reston. But it is coming out for this purpose.
Charles, Singapore is a lot different from a whole lot, having been there a bunch of times, for a whole bunch of different reasons. that are not quite what they are here, and there's some other expectations in Singapore. You have one other spot where you have this. You're just going to have to go back to the table and take care of it there.
I'm sorry, it was, Gary, I was having a little trouble understanding you. Did you?
Yeah,
Well,
your
it says
audio
Singapore-
is not good.
Singapore has a whole, having been there a bunch of times, a whole different set of circumstances. But I was just going to mention that you have this in another place in the chart that you'll just have to take care of as well. That's all.
Right now, I'm gonna, based on the discussion tonight, I'm gonna remove this. And maybe I can even try to do some data gathering on this about needs in the area. It could be there's really not a need either, so we're fine. Okay, so let's see, I don't think anything else, I think other things were fairly straightforward. And Chris, Charles gets it done. I tend to try to wrap this up tonight. So I made these other changes based on comment. I took this comment out, and someone had suggested, William had suggested just making this more like a footnote. So I added a footnote he had suggested about the HHS system relationship to the Reston Community Center. I added some comments that were provided, I think, by Tammy about from activity fees. Just clarifying the, the recreational centers. I made some other editorial comments. Again, I think it was pointed out. The facility, Hutchins Center, is actually owned by RA. So I made that correction. And it's operated by an advisory council.
Charles,
Wait a
the
minute.
land is owned by
HHS?
RA. The building is owned by the county.
Ah, okay.
I made that correction and sent that to you earlier today.
Yeah, you don't know what my day was like today.
That's okay. That's okay. You have it. And so
I was wondering about that because I definitely had checked it on the tax map.
Right.
Okay, I'm just going to make a note. Here, I'll stick it in here. Building.
If you look at my comments, you have it. I redid the sentence.
Okay, good. But they're simply clarifying comments so that we all can be reassured.
I went changed it in the body of the document.
It's nothing that should prevent us from signing off on this.
Right.
It's just clarifying. Okay, good.
What is HHS, folks? What is HHS in that?
Health and Human Services.
Okay, can't you write that out? I don't think anybody reading that's going to figure that out. I didn't.
Yeah. Charles, that's up there earlier, I think. So it's just at the footnote, I believe. You may want to look back, but I think you had it earlier.
I had it what?
I think you had it earlier in your description.
Yeah, you did. You've been going down and down, but it's up there.
Up here, okay. Oh, the HHS,
Yeah.
Doesn't hurt to spell it out again.
Right.
That would be great.
Okay. So I was just adding clarifying language. I added more clarifying language provided by Dennis on the, let's see, the Reston town, the what is it?
The indoor facility with the
recreation.
outdoor field.
Yep. So I simply added that, and then I added clarifying language that I believe you had suggested this, Dennis.
Yes, correct.
On location for, so none of it seemed to be particularly controversial or anything.
I don't know, that second sentence, I'm not sure that's true. This is described in the land use section of the comprehensive plan. I don't think it is.
Which thing are we talking about? Are we talking about?
The Performing Arts Center.
Right, but what issue, John, are we talking about?
It's the second sentence. It's not in the town center. Are
This
we
is
on the?
described, that sentence?
Yeah, I don't think it is.
I think
We're
I
talking
have
Well,
to
we
about
can
fix
either
that.
add it or we can
the
delete
rec
the
center.
sentence.
It's not.
Yeah, the Performing Arts Center is not.
Yeah, I accidentally deleted, let's see, reject that. So I'm going to put back, we're talking about the Reston Performing Arts Center. I originally had as approved for a location adjacent to the Reston Town Center Metro Station. And I think I meant to say is approved for a location. As approved for maybe, let's see.
Charles, I think you had it right, that the location has been identified
Right.
pending identification of a funding source. But
Right.
the building itself hasn't yet been approved because we don't. So I think you had it right.
Yeah.
Performing Arts Center location, or the location for proposed Reston Performing Arts Center has been identified pending identification.
So that's right too. So all of this is right. I just have to put it into a sentence,
Right.
just like fold it together. Okay.
But again, it's that second sentence in the paragraph. I don't think that's true.
What, the facility, John?
This is
No,
described.
that it's in the land use chapter.
Yeah.
This is described in the land use section, that sentence.
Take that sentence out.
Which
Which
one?
one?
The second
So you read the first.
This one?
No, the second sentence of the whole paragraph.
This is described in the land use section sentence.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it belongs here as well because it's a public facility. That's what we're talking.
Jan, we're saying it does belong here. It is not in land use.
Right.
Oh, very good.
Yeah, that's, yeah.
Sorry, I got that mixed up.
Okay, just delete the cross-reference. That's fine.
Cross, okay. Oh, okay. Oh, good. So we have an original thing in here. Okay, I'm just going to make a note. Whoops.
Just cross it out. You're done.
Okay, all right. Fine. Okay. Anything else on these guys up here? Water and sewer. John Mooney has introduced me to some people who in the county, in some of the offices, I forget the exact name of the department, who are simply going to give me some thoughts on water and sewer. Their initial comments were that you don't need to get too detailed about water and sewer because it is, they confirm that it's generally dealt with in the master plan. I did push back a little to say, and one thing John had explained to me, and John, if you're there, hopefully I understood you properly. But there is also the issue, though, that if there's some major project or need that it might, I thought maybe it's worth noting and identifying in case it involves something like you build a new road and then you say, oh, by the way, we have to now tear it up because we need to put expanded sewer mains under it, something like that. So I'm by no means an expert on this. Okay, Tammy, go ahead.
Yeah, what you have, I think is fine. I wouldn't do another thing.
Okay. And then Tammy, you said you had sent some
Yes.
language on solid waste.
Yeah, solid waste and recycling, and it's very short. 2 sentences.
Very short, okay.
Yeah, very short. And I can read it to you so that the group can hear it.
Yeah.
Reston's waste is handled by private haulers, but the county operates 2 glass recycling facilities in Reston, one across from Fox Mills Fire Station and the other in Barron Cameron Park. In addition, Reston area residents can dispose of solid waste and dangerous substances at the Route 66 transfer station on West Ox Road in Fairfax. Recycling is required in Fairfax County. That's it.
I have no objections to that.
Well, believe it or not, this is one of those, and I'm not going to go into a big thing. This is an invisible service that if we didn't have it, and we didn't have the county having those transfer stations, oh, you would be up to your eyeballs in crap and trash.
Yeah.
And we would really freak out. And you can see this around the world and in other communities where they don't have what Fairfax has. So that's all we need to
Yeah.
say. It's done, it's important, and it's short.
Thanks,
Hey,
Ted.
Tammy, this is Chris. I really like your language. I wish we could say more about the glass situation, because since that's changed in the county, I feel like, yeah, it's nice that residents know they can do it, but I wonder how many residents even are willing to go do that now and aren't just throwing it in the garbage. I wonder if Reston could, as part of this, we could maybe make that a little easier for Restonians potentially to get access to glass recycling, but maybe I'm reaching too far in here.
So, some clusters do it on their own.
We have a townhouse in a cluster that does it.
Yeah.
And the glass is used, very crushed and used, and instead of gravel for road bases. So it's fabulous.
Golf Course Island is in that category.
Yeah.
And then I might need to start harassing my HOA, my cluster HOA a little more about that.
There you go. There you go.
Yeah.
No, thank you.
The county has a real expert on that can come out and talk to people in Reston to promote that. So putting it in here would be helpful, and then we can do something to promote it here in Reston with RA, RTCA, whatever, you know.
So we'll add that. That would be good. Just a trivia, my great-grandfather was a glass recycler.
Hmm.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
He would help bars during Prohibition. He would collect bottles.
That's great.
Made a lot of money.
I was a
Anyway.
glass recycler as a kid.
Oh, yeah, I did that too. Yeah.
All
And
righty.
I have a concluding sentence, which used to be the first sentence. And that's it.
Very
So
good,
yes.
Charles. That's really quite good. That's very
Yeah,
thorough.
yeah. We'll get this space. So now I feel that we have enough consensus here and the points are clear enough that we can say bless it, subject to a chance to just do edits. And then we can send it off for each of the agencies to formally, review for their particular sections or those that haven't yet.
If that's a motion, I'll second it.
Yeah, okay.
Or if
So
you're not
Good,
around,
Lynn.
Charles, I'll second.
Yeah.
Lynn's.
Hands up
Okay.
now.
All those in favor? I'm raising my hand. Let's
Well,
see.
let's do it on the computer so we can count.
Yeah. Virtually.
Okay, so task force members, sorry, I haven't chimed in. I've been muted for a while. Just keep your hands up and I'll count them in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And I'm going to count Charles'
Yes,
physical
I
hand.
can't access.
I see. I see 9 hands, including Charles. Virtual hand.
Yeah, it's just my custom. I'm not voting on this. I'm abstaining.
Why not?
As I explained, there was concern about my voting on any final document without the RA board having taken a position.
Oh,
I explained that before, so
okay.
this in no way, I think this is a splendid document. It's just that I'm following that procedure.
This is Alvarez. I'm in favor, and I don't know how to do the hand thing on the computer.
Okay, so I got 10 hands, including Alvarez. Okay, I think that's good, Charles, unless I missed somebody else that had their hand up.
Good.
Good job.
Yeah, I mean,
No one
Jose,
voted
I think you need to do against too, obviously.
Oh.
Yeah, against.
Oh, let's do again. Sorry about that.
Not that I'm voting against, but to be fair.
Okay, so
I'll be very
Lower
unhappy.
hands.
lower hands. I see. Yeah. Okay. So against. So just put up your hands, and I'll count in 5, 4, 1, and at the count of 5. So 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Don't see any hands.
Unanimous consent.
Okay, that works for me.
With the exception of John. With John's abstention. So it is not unanimous consent.
Okay, thank you, Charles.
All right, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, that's a lot
My
of good
pleasure.
work. Yeah, great work.
Thanks. I'm going to unshare now.
So let me look at the agenda. Thank you, Charles, for stop sharing. Okay, so second item, well, the fourth item on our agenda was a discussion of community health. And Michelle, I know you're on. Did you need the screen sharing capabilities?
Sure, that would be great.
Okay, give us 1 second. We'll get you that screen share.
Was there a new community health that was sent out? Because I didn't see it.
No, Jan, I did not send it out yet. I got some additional details that I'm trying to work in. So I'll walk through what I have and then send out this version.
Okay, I do have the one that you had. So.
And Michelle, I'll get Lisa to give you presenter. I forgot I'm not the host of this meeting.
Michelle, what's the date on the one you have? I don't see it on the piece of paper, so.
The last date I think was, I'm not sure what the last date was. Because I've redated this one. I don't know if it was October. I don't remember when it was. But I'm gonna do a share screen so you can see the changes. Or so I can walk through some of the changes, and then I'll send this version around for further edits. Because I don't think we'll be able to go through everything if it's already 8:30, right?
Right.
You should be able to share your content now, Michelle.
Okay, share. I think this. Okay, does that look right?
Yeah, can you make it bigger? It's all right if you can't.
Let's see. View. I don't know how, Jan. I'm sorry. I haven't done that on Google Docs. But let's see. Let me just try one more thing. It should be under view mode.
I think it'd be under file and home. Unless it's a PDF.
Does this help?
This is Google Docs.
That's
so
pretty good. Yeah, I can read that.
Okay,
Okay.
I can too. Thank you.
Okay,
wow.
great.
Great, thank you.
Okay, so let's see, some of the bigger changes were we got some additional details on current services provided in Reston and also on some priority needs, specifically with regards to healthcare services. So I'm hoping I can walk through that. I made some minor edits to the intro. The one noticeable edit in the intro is I did remove emergency preparedness because I think a good deal of that is already covered in public facilities. And so I didn't have much to add in that regard in this chapter. So I do have to change this to 6. Okay, let's see. So going straight into access to healthcare services. And one thing I also attempted to do, thanks to a comment from Chris, is try to have a more cohesive structure or continuous structure. And it worked for most sections. I might have to do a few tweaks on a few of the last ones that are shorter, but to have the same structure throughout the chapter. Okay, so on access to healthcare and services, Jim and I spoke with county staff and also representatives on the healthcare advisory board. And then I also spoke with Dean Montgomery from the healthcare agency or services agency board. On both what we currently have and what we will likely need. One of the interesting things is due to the nature of the population, we have a situation where for many people in Reston, we can travel to get our healthcare services. Now that's not true for all, but it does mean that we're not as reliant on what's provided in Reston, but this is the Reston Comprehensive Plan, and one of the goals, at least set out with this section of the chapter, is to figure out how to encourage better usage within the community to better attain those live, work, play goal, and also as a result cut down on distance traveled in automobiles, and provide more commerce within Reston. So let's see. So what we've added as far as currently available services, there's also a mention of the federally qualified health center, HealthWorks of Northern Virginia. So that has been added. And then also I've added the pharmacy walk-in clinic, and that's the CVS Minute Clinic in South Lakes. So those were the main additions on what's currently in Reston. And we're hoping to have a map showing some of these healthcare services and providers. Then as far as needs, there's a current and immediate need for acute care psychiatric inpatient beds. This is a problem throughout the county, but specifically here in Reston. There have been some more recent efforts, including with Reston Hospital Center's sister hospital, Stone Point, to provide for psychiatric inpatient beds. But this is an immediate need that we hope could be addressed even outside maybe of the land use context, but if this could be a document that highlights that, that would be beneficial. Also, we have a great need for outpatient behavioral health services, outpatient mental health services, specifically focused on perinatal, postpartum, and pediatric and young adult mental health services. We are lacking a skilled nursing facility or facility for long-term affordable care. We do have 4 assisted living facilities. However, assisted living, does not provide the same level of medical care as skilled nursing, and nor is it affordable or accessible to a large portion of the population. Many assisted living facilities can be quite expensive. We have a great need for low-cost dental care. We are lacking a pediatric urgent care. And we need additional public facilities and services, including supportive housing located near the county's health and human services facilities. So there's one other additional need that came up that I'd like to include, because I think this is an important issue that really affects everyone in Reston, quite frankly, regardless of income level, though there's a high it affects those with lower incomes at a disproportional rate. And that's the fact that we have a current need for less costly hospital services. Available data indicates that Reston's only acute care hospital has the highest charge to cost ratio in Northern Virginia, with the hospital charging on average over $625 for every $100 spent, despite serving fewer Medicaid patients and providing significantly less charity care as compared to nearby health systems. The hospital cost issue really does have an impact on everyone's ability to access care, but also it can affect beyond our healthcare and even looking at our employers. And when employers are forced to pay higher amounts for healthcare that their employees use, they are able to hire less new employees or provide higher wages. So the impact when we're faced with higher than necessary healthcare, and in particular hospital costs, can be felt throughout the community. Additionally, as the population grows, additional demand for healthcare will be created and should be planned for accordingly. Now, I did include still my example that if the population increases to 105,000, as indicated in the land use chapter, we would have, and if our physicians remained, our current number of physicians remained the same, we would have 2 physicians per 1,000 residents, which puts us on average with China. Now, there are some issues with this statistic, and so I'm hoping to also work with Dean and others to figure out what is the best way to really say and show where we might be. But I do think it does serve a point to at least bring home the fact that we have to think about making sure that we have the providers needed. And again, with that goal of encouraging people to seek services here in Reston. So this is the new part of the chapter 2, laying out a vision for improved healthcare services and facilities in Reston. And so the first one encourages Reston Hospital Center to add psychiatric inpatient beds, and also encourages the county to explore means of incentivizing this. Additionally, on Reston Town Center North, for the Innova properties, it was conveyed to us that Innova, the Innova emergency room that is currently in Reston will not exist as it currently is, but they do want to keep the emergency room facility in Reston and would have a new facility with doctor's offices above. And so this sounds very similar to the Innova Healthplex that they've recently built in Franconia Springfield. And so if you have a chance to check that out, I think that would be great. What this would do, if we could encourage Innova to do something similar here in Reston, this would also help provide some additional competitive pressure on cost and quality of the services that we have here. In addition to just offering services that are not currently here in Reston. What would be great is if we are able to get a healthplex, considering an aging population, if we could also have consideration for geriatric ER providers on staff. Additionally, Inova has had recent success in adding a skilled nursing facility. Now they got out of the business of skilled nursing, but at their Loudoun County Hospital, they've recently added a 100-bed not-for-profit skilled nursing facility. And since this is a need that is a great need in Reston, it would be great if near the Healthplex there could be a long-term care or a continuing care facility. And so what this would be to provide skilled nursing, assisted living, independent living units, as well as specific offices for medical providers to meet the needs of the residents in the building. This is one way to enable us to get skilled nursing facilities in Reston, or skilled nursing services in Reston. It's very challenging as a standalone provider, often really is looking for very cheap land, which is just not available here. Additionally, there are issues with Medicaid and other issues on actually getting licensed skilled nursing beds and acquiring those. So one way, though, that you are able to add skilled nursing is as a component of a continuing living facility. And so this would be one idea, or sorry, a continuing care facility.
Michelle, I at least can't hear you.
Nor can I.
I can't either.
Okay. Sorry, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Is that
Yes.
better? I apologize. Okay, well, I don't know where I dropped off, but the point being, a continuing care facility would be set in Reston, and it could be achieved without having to have the hurdles of acquiring the skilled nursing licenses if it was part of this whole facility complex. So hopefully Inova would also be encouraged to ensure that this would offer affordable care for lower income residents. Okay, let's see. Additionally, an expansion of services provided by Kaiser Permanente should also be encouraged to meet growing demand and offer additional choices and services. Kaiser currently has an urgent care facility and their medical center near the Wheeling Metro. However, Kaiser is a closed network, so it's you can't access Kaiser obviously unless you're a member of the network. They do, however, also accept Medicaid.
Michelle, I think we can't hear you again.
Oh, again, I don't know what it is. Let's see. Maybe. I'm gonna try moving. Is this any better?
Yeah, that's good.
Okay. Let's see. So encouraging Kaiser to also expand would be helpful and would offer greater choices for those with access to Kaiser's network. As far as providers, from primary care to specialty care, we do have 13 million square feet of office and industrial space recently rezoned in Reston and currently unbuilt. New office space, especially near Reston Town Center North and Reston Hospital Center, should be considered for medical use. But we should also acknowledge that not all providers will be able to afford higher rents associated with new buildings. So to the extent to which we could preserve the older buildings with medical use, or preserve at least the capacity and affordability that could come with those units, that would be very helpful in providing more affordable care and also ensuring that healthcare is not just completely isolated in Reston Town Center North area. Okay, so for the new Fairfax County Health and Human Services facilities, this language is the same to maximize transportation options available and have it located near transportation. So for the county-owned land in Reston Town Center North and at the Herndon Monroe Metro Station, it would be great if these could also be considered as possible locations for new outpatient behavioral health and mental health facilities to be operated either by the county or leased to third-party providers. And then I've added a bullet 2 on how housing is a healthcare issue, and specifically those who are homeless have higher rates of illness and die on average 12 years sooner than the general US population. And stable housing is a key social determinant of health. We've already discussed tonight the need for an improved and expanded shelter. I had mentioned earlier, but one of the goals too would be to have supportive and transitional housing above the shelter so that folks in need of services have easy access and ability to get the services they need. And then the other one I have too is just ensuring that our Fairfax County Health Department has the resources needed to do the public health job and to ensure that any demand created by development is mitigated. I said through proffers, if there's another way to achieve that, that would be great. But this does come down to just ensuring that we have the funding needed to ensure that our public health department and services can best protect a growing population from diseases and improve health throughout the community. Okay, so John, I have added a chart, or I've attempted to. And so this is my chart on just basically what I outlined above, and some of the different things that would be needed, and how and the responsibility to get those. Okay, so before I go on, because I recognize, yeah, it's 8:45. Does anyone have any thoughts that they want to add on access to healthcare?
I had a thought, Michelle. John Carter.
Yeah.
You're pointing this a lot to Reston Town Center North, which really doesn't, at this point, it doesn't have any office space except HHS. Would it be possible to point that to the both existing offices and the new? I think somewhere it said there's 13 million square feet of new office space, but seems like existing office space would be a good place for some of these, and maybe decentralizing it a bit. I don't know your thoughts on decentralizing, but have it in a lot of different places. So I just wonder about pointing it too much at Reston Town Center North. I know we do have Inova there, so maybe there's something there, but we also have a lot of existing office space. We have a lot of industrial space in the mostly the non-TSA areas. But anyway, I just wonder about that. It's a minor point.
And I think
echo John's point, Michelle.
I think though
if
for
I
the two Inova ideas, I mean those are dependent really on you. I mean, I think from my understanding, Inova will have an emergency room still. So if that is a part of it, I think a healthplex idea would be very beneficial.
But my point was that might be fine, but I would think it could be other places too. Was my point? What wasn't taking it away, but and the rest of the TSAs, particularly maybe even the village centers, if they get redone, might be a good place for these kind of facilities.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Plus, I think Michelle was also saying, in some cases near Reston Town Center north, in addition to what you said, John.
Yeah,
which,
yeah.
You know,
Yeah, that's
could
what I
be
had.
across the street. She wasn't talking all about Reston Town Center North. She was talking about close to it. But the village centers are also going to be important.
There was a paragraph there. It said 13 million square feet of new office space. That's a
Yes,
possible place, but I think the existing office space would be fine, as well as the village centers. If you remember where that little, it was one paragraph. It started out with 13 million, I think, square feet of new space,
yeah,
approved space, I believe. I just would add the other areas. Add
yeah.
the existing. There it is.
And underneath, I address existing. You know, the
Good.
idea of doing continuing care near healthcare services or near the hospital and near Innova's, you know, new emergency room. I think it would make sense to have those two nearby. I think it would also just make sense to make sure that residents of a continuing care facility had access to health and human services that would be provided in the Civic Center. But completely agree on ensuring that providers and, you know, medical office space is throughout the community. I am very concerned that we're losing some of the providers further away from the hospital, and that we would see just a consolidation around the hospital. I think especially for some for many communities, especially some primary care doctors, you know, it's important to practice where your patients live and nearby, as much as possible. So yes, completely agree, and I don't know the best way to incentivize that with the current iProperties currently used for medical use, but perhaps there can be some ways.
Well, you know, Michelle, there's an emergency care facility at North Point, for example, Nova. It is
So that's
important
urgent care. That's an urgent care that's closed temporarily, but yes, that is, yeah, we have two urgent cares. That one and then Kaiser.
Yeah, I think it's important that we maybe point that out and keep those kind of facilities at village centers, for example, like John is talking about. And then, and then have some people where they don't have to drive so far to get to the doctors. I mean, talking about keeping up here in Reston town center area, but we probably need to keep that up and expand in the other areas as well.
Yes, I completely agree. And, you know, it would be great if we had a pediatric urgent care, perhaps in South Reston, at either High Woods or, you know, I don't know what's going on with there's one vacant building at the convenience center on Soapstone. I don't know that would even be big enough or even worth renovating, but there are some places where we could get smaller urgent care. If, you know, I don't know that a significant amount of space is needed for some facilities.
Yeah, it's a long ways from South Reston, say Lawyers Road area to the North Town Center. Michelle, I'm not sure the 13 million square feet is correct either. In the land use chapter, I think we have that data, how much is approved and how much is left. I think it's quite a lot higher, I believe, but I'm going by memory here.
You know, and one of the
It's at
concerns.
least 13 million.
What?
And so maybe you need to look at, Michelle, in terms of that number may go higher.
Yeah, I think it's roughly twice that, I believe, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, you know, and I think one of the concerns too is that, you know, when it's harder, from my understanding, it's harder to add medical use after a building's built, you know, especially when you're looking at some office buildings, because, you know, major employers don't necessarily want to be right next door to a pediatrician with a whole bunch of sick children who we love, but you don't necessarily want to, you know, be in the same hallway all the time.
But we do
So
have some low-rise vacant buildings in Reston, particularly in the TSAs, that would be really good. They would be well located, close to the neighborhoods, and a potential source or potential place for these facilities.
And so I think one question will also be, I mean, I know, for instance, there used to be a pediatrician's office a few doors down from Campus Commons on Sunrise Valley.
There's a good place.
Yeah, and at least a few years ago when he left, he told me he was doing so because the rent was had increased so much. So I think part of this is also maybe partly implementation, you know, or some sort of, yeah, follow-on motion of just tracking that and or doing an overview to see, like, we want to know if there are cost pressures, you know, forcing people to leave their neighborhoods. Are we also are some of our more affordable providers feeling cost pressures from increased rents? And if so, what can be done on a county or, you know, more local level to help those providers stay?
Michelle, this is
and if you look at things by the reputation of Reston and, you know, the environment, we don't have businesses closing, going to other parts of the county, those kind of things, that keeps, you know, doctors here. I hate to go back to the parking policy by Boston Properties, but that scared some, just because of availability of, you know, Reston Town Center, that caused some doctors to want to leave or leave. And so we have to manage this in a way that makes Reston a totally attractive place and the doctors want to come here and keep, you know, the hospital progressing as you've talked about in this, and doing, you know, the right kind of expansions and so forth. And it's a big picture to make the whole thing here attractive to keep those kind of people. I'm sorry for rambling on there, Michelle.
Oh, no, I completely agree. I mean, I think that it affects every aspect of community building, especially when, you know, we're looking at that hospitals are important employers themselves. And then also, you know, the effect of the cost of care has an effect on every employer in Reston.
And the aging population that you talked about means you need more doctors.
Yeah.
And
hey, Michelle, it's Jose. I know Bill Penniman wanted to make a comment, but also Chris Daniel has a virtual hand up. So
sorry, I jumped in there. Apologize.
No. Okay, Bill, yeah.
just two comments. I mean, the draft is different enough that I'll look at it before giving more, but just as a general matter, I feel unqualified to make some of the judgments we're being asked to make about how much of each kind of healthcare service is appropriate or needed in Reston, as opposed to driving just past Fairfax County Parkway into Herndon, where there's another set of complexes over there. But it's just hard to judge on that. But the other thing is, in a comp plan, when people are talking about building new buildings, you know, you can use proffers to get some things, I don't know everything, but some things with respect to the construction and the nature of the building, the land around it. But I don't know what levers Reston or the Reston comp plan has to either incentivize or require much of what this is asking for. And maybe there are lots of ways of doing it. And maybe we simply need to ask Fairfax to do more for us. I just don't know. So I'm a little puzzled at that general level.
I guess on your point on the fact that you can drive outside of Reston to get care. That is correct. You can. You know, Northern Virginia as a whole has a number of providers. And in fact, a good portion, from my understanding, a good portion of people in Reston do, okay, do, sorry guys, a good number of residents in Reston do seek care outside of Reston. Now, that may be due to the fact that our hospital is, you know, at least their charges are significantly higher than other places. It may also be due to, there could be a number of reasons. You know, we have a very educated, mobile, and generally speaking, high income community. But I think the point, or at least my attempt here, was to say, well, yeah, you can access it outside, but don't we want to build a more complete community where you don't have to? Isn't that part of the goal in having a truly livable and walkable community, is that you don't have to get in your car and go far? And I think that we should really consider that, you know, this is, we could have an opportunity to incentivize higher quality and possibly even lower cost care by looking at just the land use and saying, I mean, my view of at least a good portion of the comprehensive plan is that it does provide a vision of what we think should happen in Reston going forward. So that's what I would say. I mean, I think that this has a direct impact on, you know, we say we want to limit car trips to reduce, you know, emissions, but yet we're going to say, nope, but go drive to Loudoun County for your primary care physician, or, you know, I don't think that that's what we want to do. I think that we should try to come up with some ideas to really have a more complete community here.
You know, I'm not arguing with the vision. I think the vision is nice. I think it's fine. I mean, for me, I go as far as Baltimore to get to the specialist who will do the right thing for me. I will go, you know, people select their doctors more than on price because it's really their insurance company who decides that. But I support the idea of having lots of doctors here. I think that's great. I think it's a good calling card for the community, and I support it. I just don't know, and I find with the vision, I just don't know what levers we have. And you know, John and others may know better. That's all.
Thank you, Bill. So Michelle, we do have additional hands. So Chris, then we have David Vanell, Mark Looney, and then Jan Bradshaw. So go ahead, Chris.
Thanks, Jose. I've been helping Michelle as much as I can with this one, since I would definitely agree it's something that's out of my element. But I think, Michelle, it is fantastic, and I'm looking forward to providing comments on this next version. And I kind of hope that everyone else will do the same, because that's really how we can start to shape this, because Michelle's been doing a lot of heavy lifting here. And I think the more we can provide her with input, the better. I also think that, yeah, it's different, but I think, you know, if we're trying to create, you know, an a la carte of options and incentives and desires, then let's talk about what we want to see. And maybe some of them are just encouraged, as Michelle was saying, and then some of the other ones might be a little bit broader, but I want us to push as much as we can so that when development comes, they know things that Reston's looking for. So I'm happy, and I really hope, you know, I just want to make a sound out for this when Michelle shares it. Please provide your feedback. I think that's going to be one of the most helpful things.
Chris.
David Vanell, go ahead.
Hi, Michelle. This is pretty comprehensive. I do have some of the same concerns that that Bill has about how do we make this work? What sort of levers can the county pull? And in partial response to that, I would suggest maybe the since the state licenses these healthcare facilities, healthcare providers and healthcare facilities, maybe that is a place that the county can look to get some assistance and some, some arm twisting to get some of the things that you point out here that we need. I especially like the idea that, I'm not sure where you came up with it, but especially like the idea of the missing beds that we have here, the psychiatric inpatient beds, the higher number of skilled nursing beds, those kinds of things. That's all certainly certainly a good goal, and certainly hopefully well within the attainment. One thing I would say, you had a comparison of, as the population here climbs, what happens if we don't get any more doctors, and it seems to me that that's a sort of it's an attention getter when you say we're gonna look like Beijing, but I think that's a false comparison, because there's no way that more people are not going to attract more doctors here, and more nurses, and more other kinds of healthcare providers. So I would say that maybe the better way to say that is as we grow, we want to encourage health professionals to put down roots here, and service the population. That's all I've got.
Thanks, David. I appreciate that very much. And I agree. I think that there are certainly other ways to do it. And I'm hopeful that when we look at some other data points, maybe there's something that presents it in a different light. But I do think sometimes that at least, some attention grabbing can be necessary. But hopefully we can get the right attention to get some efforts put on these issues. Okay.
Oh, and I'm sorry. And one other thing, you might want to think about putting in for the county, the county facilities, or the county funded facilities that you're calling for here. You might want to think about highlighting the kinds of resources that are going to be needed, and where those resources would come from.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Mark Looney, you're next, and then Jan Bradshaw has the last word.
So real quickly, just to build on what David was talking about, if you haven't done this already, I would encourage sharing the document with Inova and with Reston Hospital Center, if for no other reason than to get their input on some of these items. I know that the regulatory environment in which they operate through the certificate of public need process limits what they can do at different facilities, both in terms of the services provided as well as the equipment that they can house. And even if they wanted to provide certain services or certain facilities, increase beds, add psychiatric capabilities, what have you, unless the state authorizes them to do it, in many cases, they're prohibited from doing it. And the state looks at this not on a Reston specific basis, but on a regional basis across all of Northern Virginia. And so it may be great to add it aspirationally that we'd like to see these things, but there may be practical obstacles that make it difficult to achieve it. The other thing I'll note is that the general practitioners function differently than specialists who require or are typically utilizing hospital services, and those specialists end up with privileges at one or more facilities and locate offices near or adjacent those facilities, as opposed to operating in the middle of nowhere. And so a lot of attracting the specialists to Reston that you might want to see is dependent on the hospital's ability to offer those services within the facility. And some offer some services, some offer other services, and a lot of that is regulated at the state level as opposed to the facility's actual desires. And so just sharing this information with Inova and with Reston Hospital Center, I think might be helpful, at least providing some of that perspective as you talk about what's possible and what's achievable and how to best go about it.
Yep, I've reached out to Reston Hospital Center. They've not responded. So I'll try again. Gary even walked over there, and
Gary has been, they promised to do this, Mark, and that was about a little over 2 months ago, maybe 2.5. They assured us, and Michelle sent them emails. I've been there 5 or 6 times to a very senior person. You can't seem to get with us.
Okay, let's talk about it offline because I might be able to help with that.
Well, I'm talking to the number 2 person at the hospital.
I think the question is in terms of, as Mark was alluding to, in terms of the accreditation, the question is whether that accreditation is based on the current population or the projected population. And as we know, we have a huge increase in projected population on the books right now. So I don't know if you have experience with that, Mark, in terms of working with other communities and whether they would base that on the current population or use the projections.
Yeah, the short answer, Lynn, is yes, I've worked on it even at Reston Hospital Center, and they use both. They use the existing and the projected when you're talking about meeting the needs of the region. The challenge is that, just as an example, hospital bed utilization continues to decline. So people are staying in the hospitals for shorter periods of time. And so you can serve a larger percentage of the population and a larger population with fewer hospital beds than you could 20 years ago or 10 years ago. Hip replacements are done on outpatient basis, right? So,
but I think that's pre-COVID, right?
Well, I mean, COVID's a whole different animal, but
right.
but my point is that
right.
it just the nature of hospitals change, and a lot of these satellite facilities, whether it's Inova's or Reston Hospital Center is about to open a freestanding emergency department in Tyson's, those are all feeder facilities for their hospitals. And so Inova opens up something in, call it Reston, it's a feeder for Inova Fairfax, or it's a feeder for Fair Oaks Hospital. Same thing with HCA opening in Tyson's, it's a feeder for Reston Hospital Center. So they utilize networks of facilities to be able to provide entrees into the various acute care hospitals that they have in this region. And that's true whether you're talking Prince William County or City of Alexandria or wherever. They're all utilizing it the same way. My larger overall point is that a lot of these services are dictated by the capacity within the region. The state health commissioner who regulates this stuff doesn't care that you got to drive. I'm gonna say doesn't care. I'm being cavalier. If there is capacity elsewhere in the network, there's reluctance to add capacity in a specific geography if that capacity can be absorbed elsewhere or can be serviced elsewhere. So that's the nuance in all this stuff. And that's why I say reaching out to Inova and Reston to get their input on this is important, to just understand the environment in which they're operating.
And
thank you for that perspective.
Let me just second what Mark said, because he and I worked together on the Reston Hospital application, and the state's the driver of this.
Okay, thank you, Mark.
Michelle and Gary, I'm happy to try to help if I can.
Yeah, this is kind of basic stuff, Mark, where you reply to the phone calls after you've made a commitment, but I'm a little irritated, as you can hear. And I've been down there a bunch of times, but at any rate, yeah, let's talk offline.
What are you talking about, Gary?
we're talking about getting in touch with a senior person at the hospital center. Mark and I are, and Michelle.
Thank you, Gary. Thank you, Mark and Shane. Jan, you had a comment as
Oh,
well,
just
right?
a little one. We
Okay.
were talking about long-term care nursing. We do have the Cameron Glen nursing home.
It is abandoned.
Is that on the list? I can't tell the list because I don't have your version of the health
So
document.
my understanding is that Inova once operated it. When they got out of the market, they sold the operations to another provider, and then that provider moved the beds to another area of Virginia.
Yeah, no, it got to be an older, it's close, Michelle. It got to be an older facility. The provider was with Inova as an agreement, and they just went to a newer facility about 5 miles up the road here that happens to be on Route 7 in Loudoun County, but it's close by. But
Right,
what
so
happens.
they moved the beds.
Oh, it's gone. It's
Still
gone.
The
there.
reality is if we're going to be dealing with hospital beds in Reston, we're going to have to deal with the state. That's the bottom line.
Mhm.
We're talking.
Well, we can still do a lot of politicking between now and
I think
then.
on
As
both those.
Michelle is pointing out, I think it doesn't hurt to politic.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we can, it's already 9:15 now. So, maybe we can continue this conversation to next time, but I think there's also an argument to be made, again, thinking of this as a vision. Obviously, with the certificate of public need process, that would hinder just adding any capacity anywhere. But at the same time, I think that, a community saying that something is desired would be a good thing to include. Okay. So that's what I have, I guess, for tonight, given the time crunch.
Thank you. Good job.
Thank you, Michelle. And I know the supervisor has joined us, so I didn't know if he had any other comments before we wrap up for the evening, but I know we'll be bringing back community health to the next task force meeting on December 13th.
No, the only thing, Jose, is just thank you, Charles, and thank you, Michelle, for bringing these forward, and very robust discussion tonight.
Okay, so it's so it's 9:17. Were there any other questions from the task force before we let me turn on my video, or we break for the evening? Okay, so hearing none, everyone.
Yo, what's next time?
Right, yeah.
You always put me on the spot, Tammy, so I do appreciate
Yo.
that.
Yo, what's next?
You had me at the yo. So Tammy, you tell us what's still
I don't know.
on.
I don't know. We have
So we have community health coming on Monday.
yeah, we have community health to finish up.
Mhm.
And how's
David Vanel, would housing be able to come back at the next meeting, or?
I think most likely the meeting after that.
Okay, so the meeting after that.
okay. And transportation, is that close?
John, you're
Online?
muted.
On the 21st, Tammy.
Oh boy. Okay.
Tammy, that's headed in the right direction. It's just a lot of putting together.
No, I understand. I'm just trying to find something else for next time.
Transportation will take a while.
Yeah, well, that's the problem. We have
No.
we have 2 more meetings before the end of the year. We have half of next meeting taken, and the last meeting will be oversubscribed. So we're trying to
What
find
about
something.
open space?
Is Jennifer on tonight?
No.
Oh.
Oh, okay.
So would it be helpful maybe if I reach out to Jennifer to see if she could bring back open space?
I don't know that that's ready, but yeah,
okay.
please do, and I'll help if that needs to happen.
Okay. Thank you, Tammy.
So that's pretty much it. Anything, how about earned density, Michelle? Would you be willing, would that be ready?
That would be a blessing.
I'll talk with Jen about it. I can also talk with her about open space.
Oh, okay. Thanks, Michelle.
That's a lot on your plate for next time, but those are 2 chapters that need to be worked.
So we have community health, housing, transportation, open space, and earned density. All of those, right?
Correct.
Not transportation. No transportation. That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, John said he'll
2,
bring them.
3, 4, 5.
Yeah, I think so.
Is
So,
that realistic?
And land use.
Oh my
The land use is
land use is going to be coming after we get those squared away.
So we need public facilities squared away, housing, and there was another one, right, Len?
Yes.
Transportation, right?
Transportation.
Okay.
And
Transportation is a long ways down the pike. John has put a lot of work into that. The county
And
has,
open space.
yeah, the county has been very helpful to
Okay.
transportation.
So, okay, so I guess we'll plan for community health, and Michelle will let us know about open space coming back, but also possibly
earned density.
Earned density.
Okay, so that I think that's a good plan.
Housing, transportation, and open space is what?
Earned density.
Yeah, plus earned density, land use, and community health.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Last issue is can we get a consensus that people use Calibri 12 as the font for their chapters so that we have consistency? We've had to use that in land use because we have so many, well, it's just charts and stuff that it's used in, and having something else on a chart is very distracting. So most everybody has been using Calibri, but can there be a consensus on that, please? It's just a housekeeping matter.
I see a thumbs up from John Mooney. Okay, I'm not hearing any objections. So Tammy, would you be able to send out just a reminder to folks to use Calibri?
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Jose, I assume someone's going to clean this up, make it pretty, right, when it's all done.
I would assume. I think probably
usually
yeah,
how
maybe
it
Jose.
works.
Yeah, let's find this Jose per character, and let's. I made a note for
write mine
Calibri.
out in hand, in script, and
Okay, I made a note for Calibri 12 as well on my own.
Thank you so much.
Okay, any other items before we take a break for the evening? All righty, hearing none. Have a wonderful evening, everyone. This was a good meeting.
Thank you, Jose.